Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another Books Beside My Bed video. I apologise for the lack of videos last week because I went back to work, and even though I had everything pre-filmed, I actually did not have the energy to edit them. So I've got a whole stack of stuff that's going to be coming up, and I'm going to hopefully edit and schedule them for you guys for the next couple of weeks. So there will be more videos. It's just that last week was just a little bit crazy. So this is the reading week from the 15th to the 21st of July. I read 5 books last week and I read a total of 1,688 pages, and my yearly reading total is up to 136 books. The first book that I read was book 8 in the Guild Hunter series by Nalini Singh. So you know, last week I went a little bit nuts and read 7 books and a set of novellas in the series, so I have continued reading. Book 8 is Archangel's Enigma, and this book focuses on another one of Raphael Seven Nazir, who is a vampire who may or may not be quite a vampire, and he is the most feral of all of the 7, and his behaviour is really odd and really different, and it's in this story that we actually find out who he is and how he came to be the way that he is, and it's his story of finding his mate. He is honestly my favourite, one of my favourites. No, possibly my favourite of the 7, because he's just so earnest. So even though he is this really wild, untamed thing, he's incredibly earnest and almost childlike in the way that he approaches his tasks, even though you know that he's not, and he's hundreds of years old, but he still approaches things in a way that he can find wonder in them. And so he is sent on a mission with a scholar from the refuge called Andromeda, and she's the granddaughter of a particularly nasty archangel, and they're trying to find the sleeping place of one of the ancient archangels because they believe that he is a target and someone is going to try and kill him before he wakes, and no one knows where he is. So Andromeda is called in because she has studied their history and she might have some of the clues, but it's really how they work together to try and find the sleeping ancient and how they try and overcome things in their own lives. In many ways, I also think Nazir was the most respectful of the 7, particularly in regards to their romantic plot lines. He is very respectful of the boundaries that Andromeda has set up. He pushes them a little bit, but he's not trying to actively push her over the edge. And I really like that. So I loved it. So Archangel's Enigma was released, I think originally in 2015, by Gollancz, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's the only book in the series I've done that to so far. Then I read Archangel's Heart by Nalini Singh, which I do actually own in a physical copy because this was actually the first book that I ever picked up, and then I nearly unhauled it because I thought I'm never going to read 8 other books in the series just to get to this one, and then I did, and so I read it. I actually really love these books. I love the covers on them. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. This is book 9 in the series. It was published in 2016 by Gollancz, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. In this story, we switch back to Elena and Raphael's perspective, and it follows them as they are summoned to a meeting of all of the archangels to determine the fate of Liwan, who no one really knows if she is alive or if she's dead or if she's sleeping. And they're called together to try and come to an agreement on it because she has lands that need to either be divided up. And there's a whole lot of other things going on with the archangels, so it's a really sort of imperative situation. And they have to go to Morocco to do that, and while she's there, Elena uncovers some things about her family's past. This one was really interesting because even though we follow Elena and Raphael, we also get a little bit of Aiden, I think. I'm going to put his name on the screen. It's really hard to pronounce. You get a bit of his history in this, and that was really interesting because he's probably the one that we've had that spent the least amount of time with so far. He's sort of this untouchable, incredibly beautiful angel who's been through something traumatic, and that's all we know about him until this book. So it was really lovely to get a bit of his past in here too. Then, just to break it up, I read Found by Fleur Ferris, which has been one of my most anticipated books this year. I love Fleur Ferris's work. I started reading her books last year when we read Rec for the YA Rooms book club, and then I, went out and quickly bought Risk and Black and fell in love with those, and Found is her new one. It was released in 2018 by Penguin Random House. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is a young adult thriller book. It is Love Oz YA, obviously, and it is the story of Elizabeth Miller, who has always lived in this small country town with her family, and her family have this routine and they go about their daily lives and they're comfortable and they're happy until one day her dad is kidnapped in front of her, and Elizabeth realizes that her family is perhaps not exactly what they seem, and then all of a sudden it becomes this fight to survive. Also, how she deals with uncovering the truth and things that have been kept from her for a very long time. I really enjoyed this because I like how Fleur Ferris writes. Elizabeth I found as a character to be a little bit frustrating to deal with at times because her behavior can be a little bit difficult at times. However, when you take into the fact that she is learning a whole lot of truths and she is not prepared for any of them and she's, you know, scared out of her mind, then you can sort of forgive a lot of that. So it's sort of a bit of a give and a take sort of situation, and some of the things that she comes out with, there are things that could be construed, I think, offensively, but when you put them into the context of the fact that she has just been thrown this massive curveball and she doesn't know what's real anymore, you can almost understand exactly what she's feeling. She's actually not thinking straight and all she's trying to do is survive, and I think that's a really interesting character to read about, and I did really enjoy this book. Then I read Archangel's Viper by Nalini Singh. This is book 10 in the Guild Hunter series, and this is the last currently published work, so now I have to wait until October for the next book, and honestly this makes me incredibly sad. This was published in 2017 by Gollanz. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it follows another member of the Seven, Venom, and a character who we met in the very first book of the series, Holly Chang, and she was the victim of an attack and she was left changed by the events that she experienced. We've seen her a little bit throughout some of the books, but this is the first time that she actually takes center stage, and she is a very strong, snarky, capable young woman, and she didn't ask for anything that's happened to her to happen, and yet she finds herself having to deal with it and trying to build her life in her new situation. And you know, the changes that she went through are still happening. No one quite knows exactly what happened to her or how she might change in the future. She's sort of part vampire, part not. And when a bounty is put on her head for kidnapping, she is teamed up with Venom, who was training her because he's a very peculiar vampire himself. He has quite a few snake traits, hence the name. They have to work together to sort of unravel this kidnapping plot, as well as sort of the mystery of what's happening to Holly and why she's sort of manifesting these really strange abilities that she probably shouldn't have. What I loved about this book is that it is definitely enemies to lovers, and the two are so snarky with one another. It was fantastic. I love snarky banter between people, and they sort of give each other as good as they get. Again, a bit like the Nazir story, Venom is reasonably respectful towards Holly in terms of he's not trying to force her into bed. And in fact, he actively, you know, states that she's too young for him because she's only, I think she's only 23 when the attack, or she was only 23 when the attack happened. So she's very, very young. Yet what they do build up though is this mutual trust and respect. And I really like that. And I actually think of all the male characters, Venom changed the most. He had the biggest personality change of all of the male characters in the series so far, I think. And I thought that was interesting because his change was bigger than Holly's, so I really liked that. I have to wait until book 11 now, and I'm sad. And finally, I read The Boundless Sublime by Lili Wilkinson. This is a Love Osway, thriller. It was first published in 2016 by Allen & Unwin, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It focuses on a cult, and our main character, Ruby, has been through some traumatic family events. Ruby's younger brother was accidentally killed when her father hit him with the car while drunk, and it was a complete accident and fluke, but it's torn her entire family apart. Both her and her mother are basically limping through life. Her father is awaiting trial and sentence, and her brother is dead, and so they don't know what to do with themselves. And then she meets Fox, and he introduces her to his family, and they're sort of living like in a commune. She begins to spend more and more time with him because she really likes Fox and the way that he views the world, and he's quite childlike in a way. Eventually she becomes so drawn into his world that she follows him out to the Institute of the Boundless Sublime, and there she meets the leader of the group. Everything sort of spirals, and what I can say is I knew that this was going to be confronting. I didn't realize how confronting it would be. There's a ton of trigger warnings in here for abuse, and you need to know that going into it because it is very dark. It's very quick and easy to read. The short chapters, which I really enjoyed and appreciated. This gets so dark so quickly though that it's almost like having a bit of whiplash. You sit there and question, okay, well, Ruby, you're a smart girl. How do you not see that this is not right? And yet that's exactly what these charismatic leaders can do to people. You twist things around so quickly because people just want to believe something. I enjoyed this, and I liked there was a massive twist at the end, and I did not see that coming, and that was probably the most heartbreaking part of it. So 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely worth a read if you don't mind those darker YA stories, because this is very, very dark. So those are books that I read this week. It was a pretty good reading week and I very much enjoyed myself. In the comments, let me below if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.